John Keel was under the impression that these things were alive and intelligent and aware of him.
What the heck is that thing? Overhead, yes. Orange ball.
Never in a million years would I have expected a thermal target that was moving at a high rate of speed to stop on a dime because of a flashlight.
It's not the flashlight.
It's the intent.
It's the intent behind the flashlight.
There's something about this that goes way beyond coincidences. There's something that goes way beyond belief systems. It's data.
It is.
It's something that's probably been here. It's not our job to define it. Before we define anything, is to admit it exists, and that's what we are doing. That's what this series was about. It wasn't to define subject A and B. It was to prove that they are there.
Well, since we've had luck with this in the past.
Yeah, we've already had a heck of a night.
Yeah.
We can deploy our secret weapon.
Yeah, you want to go out there and do some meditation?
I sure do.
And while you're out there, we're going to be shooting some beams over your head. And we're going to take some shots and see if anything responds.
Sounds
You're going to
good.
be training the thermals in that area. I want one on him, I want
One
on
up.
the sky. Yeah.
You got it.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do this.
Good luck.
Great. Thank you.
Once again, we were sending Adam out into the field to conduct a meditation experiment, which he has performed with interesting results in the past.
We got, as Adam was sending out his signals in his deep meditative state, you guys got some weird stuff up there in radiation, and we got it simultaneously back here. During the experiment, we verified that you were definitely in a deep meditative state.
Yeah.
Yes.
You sent a signal at one time where these guys contacted us. You don't know this because you were playing. We were playing white noise into your ear. You had no idea what was going on out here.
Nope.
So you sent the signal. Those guys contacted me on comms at that point and said we just had a radiation spike. We checked ours and we had the exact same radiation spike down here.
Oh, wow.
Some argue that those results are mere coincidence. However, in another incredible coincidence, within months of filming this investigation, news would come out detailing government psychic experiments which were allegedly used to contact non-human intelligences. It is a fact that in 2017, the CIA declassified close to 12 million pages of research conducted on the so-called psychic spy programs, specifically remote viewing. It is now a matter of public record that the U.S. government was indeed conducting research into psychic phenomena in an attempt to counter similar suspected activities from adversarial nations during the early years of the Cold War. It was feared at the time that the Soviets were working on a program to remotely influence world leaders and other agents. So in the 70s, research into a counter program began at Stanford Research Institute. The U.S. program allegedly would deal with remote viewing and remote sensing of targets. This would become known as the Remote Viewing Program, and better known now as the Stargate Program. Prior to this, it had many different names and many different objectives. According to one of the best of these government-trained psychic assets, Joe McMoneagle, the vast majority of this data that surrounds remote viewing is still classified. Some remote viewers have come forward claiming that they have seen what they believe to be evidence of non-human intelligence on Earth and beyond. There have been allegations that government researchers were trying to find psychic individuals who may be able to lure the phenomena, but that was all just theory up until recently. There has been a mountain of data building up to the possibility that psi, or more likely, elements of consciousness, are somehow linked to the UFO and UAP phenomena. More recent news has emerged from whistleblowers who say that they were part of a secret program that continued far beyond Stargate, in which the psychic assets, or as they are now being called, psionics assets, utilized certain practices such as deep meditation, to lure in UFOs in an attempt to acquire the technology. As fantastic as it may sound, these allegations match up with other observations and theories throughout the years. They also may help explain and validate some of the data that we've collected in the field.
For whatever reason, it seems like when he does his thing, we get action. You ready?
What are you gonna do?
Flash some lights.
All right, give me 1 second.
Record, flashing lights. You get on that.
Yep, I'm on it.
Recording.
It's not recording right now. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to flash now. Here we go.
You gotta be kidding me.
What? No way.
Oh, yeah, way. Literally, as soon as you flashed it, it just pops up. Look over there.
I see it.
It wasn't there before you flashed.
Where'd it go?
It's right there.
Oh, yes. It's right here. All right, let's see if we can do anything.
Utilizing what Steve Ward had told us about John Keel's flashlight experiments, and that we didn't really have to flash a code. All we had to do was really think and flash light patterns. We thought we'd give this a try.
I just told it to move to the right. Okay. See something?
Yeah, well, another one just showed up.
Oh, okay. Well, they didn't get the message.
I know, they got the message.
All right, move to the right. Still there?
Primary target is out of range. Secondary target is still here.
What's it doing?
Getting ready to fly over the tree line.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll come back.
No, it's grazing the tree line in my range. Hey, Ron, grab an IR and see if you can see this.
I got the IR on.
Right here, over the trees.
I see it. Yes, it is there. Yeah. Okay, so fire that way, right?
So this thing made a big turn. Can you see it with the naked eye?
Nope. Let me get us on. What's that? Let's see. Crap, Sonic's almost dead.
All we need is for a couple seconds.
I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking. I'm not seeing it, I'm not seeing it. Yeah. I'm in your direction. Looking right in the same area. That is negative. There's nothing there. Nothing.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. And we showed what a satellite looks like.
Nope. It's not on it's not on infrared at all. It's only on thermal. Yeah, it's only on thermal.
Okay, I see.
You got nothing moving?
Nothing's over there.
All right.
I just got stars. Lots of stars.
All right, I know they can be visible, obviously. We saw that one.
Yeah, we saw that one.
But I don't know how you guys couldn't see that with your eyes. I mean, it was
Well, I'm glad I'm still recording.
brilliant. Guys, I got something.
You and me both. We both tracking the same target?
Is it moving really slow?
Completely separate.
Really?
This thing's moving extremely slow.
Thing's moving at like a really crazy clip. And it is not visible with the naked eye.
Where did it go?
And I lost it behind the trees.
Whoa! Did you see that?
Nope, not visible for me.
I think it was, I'm going to call it a meteor. I was recording.
Good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and look straight up with you.
But the weird thing is, the thing I was looking at's gone.
Well, I don't see anything over our heads.
It was almost directly over our heads. Joe, I need to check over top the tree. It is exactly 11 o'clock position.
I got nothing.
11 o'clock position, you'll have nothing?
How far out from that tree?
I'll show you. It's right there.
Yeah, I got nothing on thermal.
Yeah, there's something right there.
Hit that record.
Oh, it's recording.
Okay. Yeah, I've got nothing off that.
I'm just going to tell it to come closer, see if that works. It's coming toward us.
Top of the tree.
Yeah, it's up here now.
Invisible to the naked eye. Invisible on thermal.
It's definitely coming toward us. Check the time now.
8:24.
Call the time out in
I think
regular
he's talking about that right
intervals.
there.
Is that what he's talking about?
I believe. Well, the 11 o'clock position will be that.
It's now 12 o'clock high.
12 o'clock high.
12 o'clock high.
Faint or bright?
Pretty darn bright, actually.
I'll just keep an eye on those. All right. See if any of them move. Because it's not
Moving
visible on thermal.
slow.
Are you getting movement?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I got nothing on thermal.
Now moving to the right.
Must be.
Come here.
Okay, just move your head out.
Should be able to see it.
Oh, yeah. It's red.
Yeah, and it's slow.
It's not showing up on that other infrared.
It's not.
No, that's the same spot he's looking at. So,
It's heading this way. What? Good. I'm flashing again.
that.
Let's try to make it stand still.
So, is it moving right now?
Barely. It's barely moving.
I got a satellite I'm looking at right now.
This is really
This
slow.
thing's scooting though. You're in a different spot.
Yeah,
You're looking somewhere different. I'm straight up over my head.
right. This thing is... What is it doing?
Oh, that's it moving?
Yeah. That will be it. Yeah.
Is it a satellite?
I don't know. Satellites don't change directions.
I wasn't getting it on thermal. Steve's not getting it on his
IR?
IR. This is the only device, and the naked eye is the only thing seeing it.
Agreed. It could be a satellite. I don't know. I almost have to say it's a satellite just based on those two facts, though, guys. Could have been a complete coincidence, you know?
Yeah.
Could have been right on with it or something.
All right.
Now you'll be able to see more on the watch back.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when you were over the tree, we didn't see anything.
You didn't see anything.
No.
Maybe you got off of the original object and onto something.
Satellite, if that's possible.
Just because of the movement.
That is true.
Because that right there where that tree was at the about 12 o'clock position in that tree was where that flash was.
All right, well, let's do it again. Here we go.
Anything there?
Man, I just want to see another one of those orange things.
Right. I can't wait to see that playback.
Oh, it was just epic.
I got nothing overhead on thermal.
I got nothing overhead on night vision. Huh? I had a flash in a tree. I think it might be a star behind the tree.
Could be.
Can you go around and see if there's a star behind that tree? Like over that way, you should be able to see it.
To the left.
To my left. See where that blinking plane's at?
Yeah.
It's off to its right.
Yes, there's a star.
There's a star.
Yep.
Flash.
Oh man, I don't know. Too many weird things out here.
Well, tonight's been a really productive night, you know?
Yeah.
We got some really bizarre results, stuff we'd never captured before, which is almost becoming par for the course.
Yeah, but not this time. It's almost like every time it ups the game.
Oh, I don't know what's going to happen after the game gets up from tonight.
I mean, we're dealing with close encounters at this point, okay?
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
for real, I've never seen anything like that. I've read about it, I've heard about it from other people, but I have never seen anything like that. That orange ball, whatever it was.
That's not one, guys. What the heck is that thing?
Are you recording?
Overhead, yes. Orange ball.
The way it moved,
Yeah.
no, never seen anything like
And a 10-minute thermal capture.
that. That was unbelievable.
Yeah. And Steve, this, being the first time he's been out with us,
Yeah.
we wanted to get him out here to recreate some of these Killian experiences and experiments.
And you did. you absolutely did. I was involved with the CE5 events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I attended a few of them in Michigan, in Brighton, Michigan. And I didn't experience too much. I heard a lot of stories from people, but I did have some weird things happen. I had an EMF meter that was all of a sudden was climbing very slowly, but went way up, above the median field. It shouldn't have. And then a lady I was with, she took a picture of her trimeter.
Yeah.
And the part where you see the needle and so forth, it's got the little plastic
Yes.
cover on it. She captured, it was like a hand, part of a hand. It was in black and white. And the way the hand was facing the camera, it was it didn't make any sense. But it's like a small hand of I don't know, an elemental or something was reflected in this.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So it's in the plastic window.
It didn't make it didn't make any sense from the perspective it was, but So it was just bizarre. I mean, I had something happen on the meter, and she captured this bizarre image, and so
Oh, you see
it's
more
it's that intent again. It's
Yes.
that reaching out.
Yes, I think that's what it came down to. The fact that we came out here and did something that Keel did all those years ago.
That's really cool.
People laughed at the man back then.
They did. They mocked him. They ridiculed him. He caught flack from the UFO community themselves.
They're pretty good about that.
And they hated the message, so
hated
they
the message.
killed the messenger.
Yeah.
But he didn't care.
Yeah, that's the best part. Can relate. But for real, no, you have to go outside the box. You have to make people think and have these conversations. Doesn't matter if you believe it. It's there. It's
Yeah,
not going anywhere.
absolutely.
And obviously you can come out and prove it yourself if you want to.
Yeah.
Think how far he advanced the field,
Exactly.
even though a lot of people ignored him. And tonight we confirmed some of those things that he uncovered.
Imagine what he could have captured had he had the advancements in technology that we have today.
Yeah. Yeah, if anything else, this is just a big tribute to John.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it. And it's,
Regardless of how you feel about him,
yeah. doesn't matter.
the results worked,
Yep, you can't argue
or
with
the
that.
tests worked rather.
Data's the data,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Never in a million years would I've expected a thermal target that was moving at a high rate of speed to stop on a dime because of a flashlight, a battery-powered flashlight.
Again, those are things that just don't make sense. It's not the flashlight.
It's the intent.
It's the intent behind the flashlight. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Very interesting night. Very interesting night.
I am so glad we got to come out and do this. And it has definitely validated a lot for me personally.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And it was awesome being able to bring Steve and Adam out with us too.
Absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming out. Of all people, you're one of the ones we wanted to get out of here.
Exactly.
You appreciate this more than anyone else.
Well, what do you say we start tearing things down and
It's a successful night.
yeah.
We should have people to do this.
Yeah, right. right. I agree. This night, that night was absolutely off the rails.
Yeah, it was.
It's one of my favorite experiences ever.
Watch, keep watching.
Nope. It's not on it's not on infrared at all. It's only on thermal. Yeah, it's only on thermal.
So watch.
Ah,
I didn't see it at the time though. Like I literally did not see that when I was filming. That's
man. That's cool. That's really cool. That makes that's 3. That means 3 on that night. That was like is almost as soon as it knew we had them. Is almost like right when we got it. It's like nope.
Yeah.
Darted off.
yeah.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. And now we've seen it at multiple locations. I don't know what's going on at this point. It's almost like something says, mission accomplished, and leaves.
Is it mission accomplished or oh crap?
I'm seen, my cover's blown.
They've got. How are they seeing me? Because again, like if
Could be
we're
that too.
going back and looking at this thing, there's a whole lot of talk right now
Sure.
about consciousness and psionics and psychic connections and stuff.
Right.
So, bear with me, guys. We're looking for stuff on sensors, right?
Right, real sensors, actual
sensors.
measurable, yes.
Yeah, we're looking for stuff, and all of a sudden, stuff's there. Previously, before we had the gear to see it, it could have just hung out as long
Oh,
as
it
it
could have
wanted.
been there, yeah.
But now, again, if there is that consciousness link, if that's actually happening, previously when we're looking around in the sky, we're not seeing anything. Those things could have just hung out. But all of a sudden now we're like, hey, what's that? Oh, crap, moment. And this thing darts off because it doesn't want to be seen. Does that mean it doesn't want to be seen? Or is it a mission accomplished? I'm out of here now.
Right.
That is a good question, I think, that we all need to be asking.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not hearing that question.
No, you're not.
You're not hearing that kind of ideas. You right now in the news and everything, we're hearing a whole lot.
They're
about
dancing around those issues.
Right, they are.
You're saying.
They're going full lean in, like, oh yes, I'm making contact and bringing it in.
Right.
Well, what if you're already connected and you don't even realize you're connected because it's got like a one-way link with you somehow, and it knows when you know it's there, and it can make itself scarce at that point.
Very good
Could
possibility.
that be what was happening this night?
It's a very good possibility.
This stuff makes my brain hurt sometimes.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter how much education you've got. It doesn't matter how many degrees and your specialties. Eventually, you're going to hit a wall where you just throw it out the window.
Yeah.
And you're like, deep breath and go forward and try to start making sense of it. And I feel like right now that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, we are trying to make sense of it, but we're looking at the data and we're trying not to let belief systems enter it. But even not letting belief systems enter it, you start seeing a pattern that other people believe, and you're like, are they wrong?
Right.
I don't know, but I can tell you that it does seem that we can say at this point, in my opinion, this is not faulty equipment.
Yeah. This footage that was recorded on the psionics has been
Yes.
evaluated and determined to not be malfunctions either.
Exactly. So what we know at this point is that it seems that something intelligent is going on
Yeah.
with this. There were a number of sightings that night, and we attributed them at the time to satellites because,
We are very objective. It's when we're sitting here at the table, we do kind of let our ideas out. We share those, and those are our personal ideas, but we're also very objective researchers. At what point, like you said, with the mountain of data that you've recorded, now with the thermal data that we've recorded, I'm 100% comfortable at this point because it 100% lines up with all of the military data.
Yep,
There is no difference in it, period.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
Those are UFOs.
100%. Everything that we've captured on thermal at this point, I can put up against some of the stuff that's coming out right now.
Yes.
And it is almost identical with what we're seeing.
If not better.
If not better.
If not better.
I do agree with that.
And I'm not just tooting our horn. We're using a lot of the stuff that's coming out now is recorded on equipment that was brand new in 2017, 2018. We're using modern day equipment. The resolution is sharper. The tracking is much better. You don't have as much pixel loss when things are moving really fast. They stay tighter. Some of the footage is just simply better than what has been released publicly.
I agree. And there's probably a lot better that no one's seen.
Oh, 100%. Can you imagine? Because a lot of the military sensor data is, on average, about 5 years ahead of what is commercially available to, normies.
Right.
And that's just how it is. So I would love to see what the resolution on some of this new gear is, because
Exactly.
now I don't have the privilege any longer of being in the service to actually play with some of these toys anymore.
Right.
So I'd love to absolutely see what we're working with now that is going to be available in 2030.
Well, this is also how we know that they know something else is going on at this point.
Yeah.
Because if we've picked this up on, third generation, they're way above that. So what have they seen? So here's some of the things that we did see. Now go ahead and show that.
So,
Another flashlight,
is it moving right now?
Barely.
and you can see it barely moving right there in the center.
I got a satellite I'm looking at right now.
This is really
This
slow.
thing's scooting though.
No, your target was moving pretty fast.
Yeah, I was watching a satellite that was booking it,
Right.
and you and I were looking at different positions in the sky.
Yeah.
But I was visually tracking a satellite with my eyes.
That will be it.
Now, at the time, we said, you know, we had to say it was a satellite based in the field because,
I don't know.
I mean, I really still don't know.
I even questioned it right there in that moment. Are you sure that's a satellite?
Right.
Because the one that I watched was definitely a satellite, and it wasn't moving as quickly as these UAPs that we've captured on thermal,
Right.
but it was moving in the same speed that you would expect a satellite to scoot across the sky.
Yeah, satellites are pretty distinct when you see them moving
Yeah.
across the sky.
Yeah.
This was very, very slow, and we caught several of those nights, but this one was very, very slow. And when you zoom in, it does seem to have this not a consistent pulse, but some kind of a undulation that's taken place. I don't know.
I think it was a really good capture.
Here's another likely satellite.
Hey guys, satellite, I think.
Yep, that's satellite. It's following the same trajectory as that one that was earlier.
Okay, so you see how bright that is?
Yeah.
That's what I saw, but it was not a satellite. Way brighter than that.
I'm seeing it bright.
Now we can see that pulsing, right?
Yeah, it is pulsing.
Typically, we think that is, as a satellite revolves, we can get that.
Right.
Now, we've captured that before.
We have.
And typically, it's slower than what we see here.
The undulation, and it's also predictable.
Yeah,
You can
time it.
You can time it.
Which is one of the things we do. That's one of our protocols for trying to find these satellites.
Yeah.
Among the apps, which we also pull out the apps and check these things out. I went back post and tried to check the data on the satellites over our position this night. I figured they would be there, that there would be satellite activity. There was no satellite activity where we were looking at the time. But military satellites don't show up
That's right.
typically on some of these satellite tracking apps.
That is true, but generally speaking, mind you, this is over U.S. territory, so they might not be operating in the same kind of behaviors. Typically, the reflective surfaces aren't going to be facing us, if that's the case with a military satellite as it's moving. Now, you can still see them. I'm not saying they're invisible, but this long of a
Wouldn't make that much sense, what you're saying?
no, it doesn't to me. But knowing now what we know, that there weren't satellites in that area of the sky that night while we were looking, it does lead me to believe, with the rest of the night, that we might have actually captured another UFO on camera.
Okay.
Because this would classify as an unidentified flying object.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, I know they can be visible, obviously. We saw that one. Guys, I got
There.
something.
You and me both. We both tracking the same target?
Now,
Is it moving?
I thought this was a satellite.
Really?
This thing's moving extremely slow.
He's moving at like a really
You're looking at something moving pretty fast.
Yeah, I'm watching something move. You can see me turning, and the visual range
Yeah.
on that is hundreds of yards.
Now, Steve is back there looking
not visible with the naked eye.
on second gen, and he sees nothing.
And I lost it.
I lost it. Where'd it go? And then that happens.
Did you see that?
Nope, not visible for me.
That is,
I'm going to call it a meteor.
I mean, I had nothing else to call it at the time but meteor. But now that we've reviewed this,
yeah,
it's very strange that it shows up at the exact same time that the one thing disappears. I'm looking for it. Where did it go?
and then all of a sudden, you're right. It's just like the first one you showed me. It goes back to that, oh wait, they see me and
Yeah.
dart off.
Yeah.
I'm in your direction.
Okay.
Right.
At this point, you've got a target.
That is negative. There's nothing there.
Before I, what's that? This is sonics that we're using here. You are trying to verify. You've got
Yeah,
target.
I'm using them like
Yeah.
at one in each hand.
Yeah. There's nothing there. That's what you're looking at.
Yep.
It's not on it's not on infrared at all. It's only on thermal.
That target that I was watching, you conducted an experiment while I was observing that target. And then one of the most absurd things takes place.
It stopped.
What do you mean it stopped?
It stopped.
When I did that?
It's standing still.
You confirm that?
It is not moving. Object is static.
You get this on camera?
There's a bird. That wasn't a bird.
What are they merging?
So the part about this that was the most mind-boggling to me is you do the flashlight test and it stops dead in its tracks.
There's a bird. That wasn't a bird.
Yeah, it happens right after the flashlight experiment. It stopped.
It stops. Now, it doesn't just stop for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It hung in the sky for 8 minutes and it did not move. Nothing can do that. Nothing that conventional that we wouldn't be able to immediately, glaringly know, oh, that's a helicopter, because we'd have heard it. We'd have heard it if it was a drone. We would have seen exhaust from conventional aircraft.
Absolutely.
We would have also seen something other than that oblonged spherical shape.
Yeah.
But it hung there. And after it hung there for so long, that's when that clip that you just played happens.
Yeah.
Another target comes in. I assumed it was a bird just because the way it was moving in.
Yeah.
And then they come together. A bird won't hang in the air for 8 minutes in the same spot either without subtle movements. This thing stayed where it was, and another object comes in. They seem to become one object, and then the other one ricochets out.
Yeah. I don't know what it was. I can tell you that we've, again, showed this to multiple people. They got very excited about it. And it confirms some of their own personal sightings in the past.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. And man, I don't know. I think it's one of the best thermal captures that I've seen, is what I think, as far as it goes with the UAP. Or, plasmoid, or whatever they want to call these things, right? Because it does seem like what we're looking at is something alive.
Yeah.
That looks like a living
Is
interaction.
They come into contact with one another, become one object, and then blasts the second one or another one.
Right.
Like, what's the operation here? How did that actually physically work? Because it doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
This encounter changed a lot. Mm-hmm. It was a perspective changer, but also it changed something with the dynamic with our research and then some other stuff. Like, I'm not going to go into the depths of some of the further reaches this thing's gone, but it's gotten really weird.
It has gotten very weird.
And
right.
You cannot convince me, and this is going to sound really, really bold, especially from one of us, and as objective as we try to be, that you cannot tell me that we did not make contact.
Yeah.
This moment.
It would seem that during this particular night, that is what happened.
Yeah.
There's a clear response with those flashlights multiple times.
Yeah.
there's a lot of these flyovers, these weird flashes. There's a point to where, at one point, we're recording something, and I have my phone set up over in the corner, and as we're recording, I'm watching the sky, and as we're doing that, my phone, you guys saw it, I didn't see it, so it just flashed bright white, and I thought, oh, it's just get ready to die or something, and I went over to pick it up. And as I did that, I still have the psionics in my hand. Let me show you what I found. Look at this. Look at this. This is in my hand. I'm not looking at this.
You're not even viewing it.
Look, right here in the middle of the screen.
The screen turned white and flashed off.
I'm not even watching this. It's upside down. Now I pick it back up and I look back up.
It's all right.
And I didn't even really notice it.
Yeah. And it flashes up and gone.
Look at how bright it got.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm telling you, this night was something else. We more than any other night got something's attention here.
We really did see something's attention.
And it was in this location that John Keel recorded several research experiments.
Absolutely.
And wrote tomes of notes. And we were able to take Steve out. And Steve was able to observe these things with us. Steve had, up to this point, never witnessed anything.
Anything quite like this.
Had never
like this.
witnessed anything of this kind of experience. He'd gone out and done paranormal research. He said the weirdest thing that had ever happened to him involved a TV in a hotel room.
That, and they had seen he'd been out on a CE5 type thing with someone at one time. He was he was mind blown, is what he was. It changed his perspective on a few things too, and to bring him out and let him see this stuff was just phenomenal. But we've arrived at that moment.
The piece de la resistance of the night. The thermal targeting was fantastic. The video with this thing that hung over us for 8 minutes, it still is one of the most bizarre encounters I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that there were witnesses there, as well as Steve there, who had never experienced anything like that before.
It's always good to have multiple witnesses with you on these things, because especially people who are mildly skeptical.
Yes.
This is important, because we want to see those people come out.
Yeah.
And, you're not going to find anything. Well, okay, come with us and let's see if we do.
Yeah.
We don't know either, to be honest with you.
We don't.
We may not, but we did.
This specific piece we have broadcast. We've let people see because it was very important. This was released in December.
That's right. We released this because of its importance. Just because we wanted it to get out and to get multiple eyes on this.
We did, yeah.
So I sent it off to Stan, let him take a look at it like we always do. Stan was more than impressed with it. He came over on our podcast, sat down with us, and did a commentary for us, so we could actually put it out and get a broader review. And we begged people for explanations for this video. Yeah. And we got nothing.
The only thing is, it's just a moth. It's a moth.
It's Mothman.
Yeah, well, okay, we're in Mothman territory. I'll take it. We just caught Mothman on night vision camera.
I'll take it.
We'll run to the bank with it right
now. But we know what moths look like.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We know what insects look at. This is one of the first things we look at when we go to these things. Thermal-wise, what's look like on, infrared. They're not insects, okay? Right. That's all I can say.
We have
people can say they are. It's okay.
Supporting what insects actually look like on these instruments.
Right.
To know better.
To believe what it is, you may. It doesn't matter what you believe, again, but we can tell you it's not insects.
Yes.
And leave it at that. However, here's the clip.
The most PG holy moment ever.
So what I've done here, I've actually put a clip up here in the corner, and we're going to watch this. This is the research reel. So here we see a small satellite that comes into view, right?
Yeah.
And then over here, it comes into view, takes off, over top of us, comes over top of us. Look at this circle. Circle's over top. Kind of a little palsy right there in that corner. And then look at this.
Boom.
That blue flash at the end, and it's gone.
Gone.
It's just gone.
This footage will never not be entertaining to watch for me because, one, I have never seen, in all the years I've been trolling the internet trying to find these things, to find footage, I have not seen anything close to it.
No.
Period.
No. It's just a remarkable piece of footage. And the synchronicities are insane. They're literally insane. Again, it's almost like something challenges you at this point to say, look, what do I have to do? What else do I have to do? That's literally what we're seeing here, because I had literally just picked that Sonics up and pointed it at the sky.
Yeah.
This does not happen.
It is very unusual. And everything that we had the rest of the night, because this was the first real good clip of the night.
Yeah.
And everything after that was just scaled up to 11.
Yeah.
And the fact that this was captured, and we didn't even get to see it that night. You were the only person who witnessed this. You called it out.
I called it out.
And you were looking in that direction. I looked immediately. When you made the call that you saw something coming in fast and hot, I immediately got the thermal and I trained it, nothing. Then ran over to Steve. Steve had the second generation night vision optics.
Right.
He was looking up, nothing. And his field of view was wider than yours.
Absolutely.
And there was nothing there.
So he has a second generation night vision. I'm using a third generation night vision. You're using thermal, but it's only visible on the third generation night vision up into the 1100 nanometer range. And what is crazy to me about that is that we have to consider now how many of these things have always been there before we, had the ability to look into that spectrum.
Yeah. How much data have we not collected simply because we couldn't see it?
Right.
Which has been kind of the story of the last few episodes of this. And then previously several years of research, because the more instrumentation that we were able to get, the more sensor data that we could review, we had to start looking back at previous research that we had conducted to say, what else did we miss? And looking at things that we knew we had and looking at data that we knew corroborated some of these other things. Like, man, how much did we actually miss because we didn't have X?
Exactly. How much did we miss? And, we at the presentations, we used to talk about how, our visual range, we can only see into this particular range. We're showing that.
Oh, 100%.
And we're showing the possibility that something is well beyond that visual range at this point.
Absolutely, and there's no one that can deny that at this point. You can say that this was a lens flare. You can try to say that this was an insect. Okay. Why did it just disappear? Why did it not have a thermal signature? Because insects have thermal signatures.
I don't know. I don't understand it. The blue flash at the end, it's like that thing went into warp and it was gone.
Yep.
And more importantly, the direction that this thing disappeared in comes into play, because it wasn't long after that we found another group of sightings in this particular area. And coincidences are coincidences, but I literally just got a text from the landowner. Like no more than 10, 15 minutes ago, showing pictures of some of these newer images that are coming out of that area. And so we have to get out to that zone.
The next good clear night we got to get boots on the ground.
We have to get out there, but this time, Joe, everything. And since those past episodes, we have stepped the game up quite a bit. You've got us some new gear that we're going to be taking out there. You've cobbled together some stuff thanks to our members over on Wild and Weird Radio.
Absolutely.
Wild and Weird WV.
I can't wait to be able to deploy this thing and get it out there and see what kind of results that it yields.
It's going to be amazing. On top of that, we've got Dave. Dave's going to be coming out with us. He's going to be bringing out the telescope again, the automated telescope. the smart scope. And he thinks that maybe if they're terrestrial enough, far enough away, that he can use the terrestrial mode, lock onto these things, and get us an actual clear image, a close-up clear image of what those things are. That's the goal.
That would be beautiful.
If that's going to happen. On top of that, we're throwing Adam back out in the field. We're going to let him do a contact protocol out there in the middle of the field. If these, top psionic assets can do this, let's see if our
very
local
own
asset can go out there and do this. And let's see if we can get an actual image of what these things are, and not just like you said, visual, but let's see if there's anything else to back it
Now
up.
we've already been out once.
Yes.
Into this location with
scouted
the
it with
landowner.
the other
We've
stuff,
scouted
yeah.
it.
It's very exciting, and it's all leading up, like I said, to this one thing. I am working on a device, and where we were talking about, visible and invisible and so forth. What if we can use not a flashlight, but what if we can use an infrared laser?
Okay.
What if we can take that infrared laser and use that as some form of communication that's taking place here?
Well, we know for sure the infrared flashlights have yielded results.
That's right.
So I'm very, very excited to see what these lasers could do. I think that would be very interesting.
That's the plan. So we're going to see what happens out there. Again, I don't know, but as soon as we get out on that property, we're going to head back out there, and we are going to deploy every single thing. We're going to see where this road takes us and how far over the horizon, so to speak, we end up. I don't know. We might end up abducted at this point.
Sign me up. Let's go.
I don't know.
For over a year now, we've been actively chasing down data on various unexplained phenomena. From Bigfoots to UFOs, we've investigated multiple areas and collected data from different sites and different witnesses. From day one of filming this series, we were met with what seemed like an incredible challenge. The chance to put our data out to a larger audience and to help start a discussion about the reality of these phenomena that many have witnessed, while others simply refuse to acknowledge the possibility of.
Okay, so we have literally been running for a year.
Yes.
And with all of the data that we've pulled together, it makes sense that now we literally do our MO, and that's put it on the table.
Yeah.
And it's time to scrutinize it all. It's time to look at it all and see where it's leading us.
Yep. And there's some weird stuff here, man. I mean, there's some weird stuff here.
There is so much weird stuff that it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, we started the whole journey with the changing of the lexicon that you wanted to make sure we address, because we said, you've got these accounts where people are running into what we would consider a flesh and blood physical thing, right? And then you've got these others that are these high strangeness events and then you've got these overlaps.
Right, and those overlaps is where we really came into a whole lot of trouble in the community, because it creates a infighting,
Yes.
And it's caused massive divisions. It's literally, I have watched this phenomena turn friends against each other. People who were absolutely as tight as could be, but then because one of them experienced something strange while they were looking for Bigfoot or while they were doing some other kind of like a paranormal experiment, they had an out of the wheel kind of experience that the two had to separate and go their different ways.
Yep. And it shouldn't be that way. And because if anything, the data that you're going to see today is going to prove not only is there subject B, but subject B is overwhelmingly large. And it's just everywhere, and it's all over the place.
Well, I believe we said it in the first episode, was that our world is far stranger than what we understand.
Absolutely.
And over this last year, that has become just glaringly obvious to both of us.
Yeah, it has. It's been an incredible journey. And this is just the data that represents what we've done in this past year, okay? So this isn't the full gist of our data, because I don't have that much time to do that.
Right.
But we do have what we've been out there on the field with. So what this series encompasses, this is the data from that. So looking at that, we do see subject A, and that is the physical creatures and, etc. Subject B is where it gets strange.
Yeah, it's any element of high strangeness. Well, as soon as that's introduced, it's instantly subject B.
Yeah. So we've got EMF, we've got microwaves, we've got radiation, we've got equipment failures, which up until this time, we've only seen a very small amount of those, but that changed. And then we ran into that 1.6 to 1.8 gigahertz signal, which we thought, we're going to be able to explain this away as satellites.
Right.
It was not that easy once we applied our protocols to it, however. And at that point, it became something that was a little more out there, especially when it came to that call and response ITC stuff, right?
It seems to literally take on a life of its own.
It's very strange is what it is. And then on top of that, we have the SEOPs, the self-illuminated anomalous phenomena. Those are what everyone calls orbs. These balls of light or whatever they are, plasma.
Yeah.
Don't know what they are, but they're just there. And of course, UFOs, UAPs, synchronicities, the psi aspect of this. And what I like to term now, based upon what we've seen, is it non-human communication or is it non-human initiated communication or contact? Right. That is what we're going to get at the end of this. And we're going to look at the data and see exactly what's going on out there. So first things up, we're going to look at one of the more benign things, and that was the EM and microwave radiations.
Right.
Okay. So we know that they occurred in the same vicinities at these A and B sites.
Yeah.
This was the overlaps. We saw more consistent overlaps with microwaves than any other thing, really.
When we were, for example, we were going out with Beth and with Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
We were going out following up on Bigfoot reports,
right,
which subject A reports, and we'd get out there and experience these strange anomalies where the tri-field meter would just start to skip around and throw extremely high numbers for it to have just been a stray signal.
Not only that, it occurred when you were specifically at a point when we were addressing whatever this was. So this is probably where we got the second idea for the ITC. I think this is the only second ITC we did. What's of note here is that this is a microwave reading, and if you note where that meter's at,
there's no way.
It's flat on the bottom. That's where your sensor is. So that means that signal shouldn't be happening.
Correct.
Because we know that microwave signals do not do what this did.
And to be fair, it's this piece of equipment that we're using. This is a tri-field meter, and the sensor is located right here. So this specifically, this area is where the sensor's at. All of your data, for example, when you're pointing it at a wall to try to detect something, you want to make sure that your hands are not blocking it, because you'll get a false positive. To really get a very good reading, you want to hold it something like this, looking around to see where in a wall or something like that to isolate a signal.
Yeah.
You laid this tri-field.
It's on the ground.
Flat on the ground.
I did. I laid the tri-field flat on the ground.
And we were getting somewhat of a call and response in the ITC session.
This is what happened.
Do you want us looking into this phenomena? 173, 119.
Is that a yes or no?
I don't know.
And we can see that is a signal.
Yeah.
That's the more prominent thing here. That's not just it going up and, coming back down. There's a pulse.
Right.
And it's literally pulsing at this point.
And it was a predictable pulse. We could watch it move.
Yeah.
But again, this was another case where we had these elements of high strangeness overlapping subject A.
Yeah. Because we were out there following up on this Bigfoot sighting.
Right.
This shouldn't have happened. And these guys we were with, they were not used to this. Let's just say that. They were not used to what was happening out there. So, but they were very open-minded to it, and they gave some very honest answers as to what was going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is watts per square meter. That's what we're seeing. So that's amount of energy per square meter is what you're seeing, okay? That should be zero.
It should be zero.
Or at least like 0.10.
Even with the equipment that we have here, it should still be zero because we've baselined this area with the equipment we
Look at
currently
this.
have.
Look at this. That's a signal, dude.
Yeah.
That's a signal.
That was in Wineberry.
Yeah.
Now, what's more interesting about this one is that is in the area of the weird tree structure.
Right. That strange structure that we walked up on. This is you're directly underneath it during this.
Yes.
I remember when we got there, and there was no reason why that should be happening right there.
First of all, you have a tree, and to be honest, tree structures.
This isn't your typical tree structure, though.
No.
No.
No, this was bizarre.
Yeah.
To say the least. And you're standing under this thing, and you realize this is a massive. What? It was about that big around.
And at the farthest end, it was bigger around still than my forearm at the end where it was snapped off.
Wedged into between about 6 trees, if I recall correctly.
It was like it was threaded between them.
Yes, it was threaded. Still don't know what that was, but the weird part is we started getting microwave and EMF signals underneath that. There were milligauss rises as well, which should have been 0. We're in a forest. There's nothing out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the more bizarre things that happened. In fact, I have a clip of me kind of dumbfoundedly looking at this thing.
111. 111.
111?
111.
So we're getting some kind of energy right here. That is an insane spike.
And it was only there because what happens as we progressed is the farther I moved away from that, the signal dropped.
But I remember when you moved back towards it,
it came back up.
And then all of a sudden it just stopped.
It just stopped. Yeah. After, I think it was when they started seeing the orbs down below us, everything started to stop where we were at and took off down the valley. That's when they started thinking, they were seeing us. And
well, you brought it up. Orbs.
Orbs, CEOPs.
CEOPs. We have these self-illuminated lights.
Yeah.
And they are showing up everywhere. We've had footage sent from the West Coast to us. That was one of the very first ones that we had.
That's right.
Was sent to us by David Green.
Yes.
And then we started getting them and receiving them from Dawn, which we visited on this series. Beth began to send them in to us from Wineberry. So this wasn't the first time that orbs had been seen in Wineberry.
No, there's been many instances where she had been sending those images over to us because we kind of told her to be on the lookout for anything strange that may happen. And to be honest, it really kind of messed her world up a little bit because she's more thinking, I'm out there looking for Bigfoot. And then all of a sudden, she starts seeing these little balls of light that show up.
But not just seeing them. She was being diligent, and she actually captured these on camera.
So she managed to get some really good images caught on camera, and then we went up, and did the rest of the stuff. But we did catch, these microwave radiation signatures and these EMF signatures, as well as other radiation there. But the strange thing about the microwaves was that we didn't just capture microwave radiation. We captured microwave radiation that seemed to move.
Yeah. Signals in the middle of the woods that you should not get.
Right? Exactly what it is.
That's the real-time read number. And just minor adjustments and you lose it.
Yeah. So it's coming straight through there.
Yeah.
It was coming straight through there, but it was also pointing us down into that valley.
It was.
Now this was at Dawn's.
Correct.
This is an area where she kept seeing the CEOPs and the UAP. She's had several encounters in this area.
Mm-hmm.
We were on the same path where these things were encountered, and we started getting that. Plus other weird things.
Right, because like you said, we were on the path, and this microwave signal decided to lead us in a strange serpentine motion, and microwave operates on line of sight.
Right.
Trees can break it, the structures can break it, and there's no way, even if this was an omniscient pulse, because there are microwave towers that can send out a wide range frequency. It's a big pulse, but a big pulse still has an origin point.
Mm-hmm.
That origin point doesn't take you in directions.
No.
that pulse would keep sending you in the direction of the tower.
It would.
The point of origin.
Yes.
Not in a serpentine track down a very well-worn game trail. It made no sense. It felt like we were being played with.
It really did. And I think if we've been at any of these up until that point,
Yeah.
that is the one where it really seemed like this thing was, you know, the laser pointer, we were the cats.
Yeah,
That's
it really
what it felt
did.
like.
You're
That's
right.
literally what it felt like. The next thing we run into is radiation.
Oh boy, radiation.
And we found out that basically, again, there's an overlap
Yes.
between subject A's and B's and this weird radiation.
But we have seen that overlap well beyond just this year.
Right.
The radiation overlap is something that we've observed in our research literally for the last 5 years.
Yeah, and it was included because, again, it's kind of a validation point. That's why it was in there. That's why we went back and put some of the old footage from some of our previous investigations. But these trace evidence, they have seemed to be recovered in this lingering radiation signature. Now, what that means is we actually took a track cast. You remember this? We
Yes.
took a track cast from the area where we received the radiation. That track cast displayed a very minute amount of the same radioactive signature for what, about like 6 hours?
Yeah, 6 to 8 hours. And then it dissipated by more than half once again.
Yeah.
So it was slowly fading off. And now I still have that track in the basement. If you were to test that track, it's inert.
Yeah, and this is literally the very first time we ran into subject B.
Now, there have been some people in the past when these episodes aired that were asking about the dosimeters we were using. They were asking about how accurate they were. And, you know, we went on, we've shown them these things, but we've got these series here. It's the GQ GMC 500 Plus and the GQ GMC 300S. And these are laboratory grade.
Yeah, these are good.
These are some of the best that you can get as a consumer to carry around to tell real-time radiation readings, because you're going to see this not 3 or 4 minutes after you walk into an area or 30 to 40 seconds after you walk into an area. You're getting these readings within seconds of them coming across the sensor.
Yeah, they're extremely fast. And this was the first time we had it out.
Right.
And it made you very uncomfortable.
It did, because we went out on this investigation, and all of a sudden I start hearing the ticking, and I'm like, wait, what is that? Why? Why? And you know, we've had people throw explanation like, oh, it's a astronomical event or a cosmic event. At those types of levels, no.
Well, more back to that. It's been, you know, since we did this,
right?
We've got a few more of those. And on that particular episode that you're talking about, there was no fewer than 2, I believe, Geiger counters, and they were separated by almost a quarter of a mile.
Yes, a little bit more than a quarter. There was almost 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, 3/4 of a mile.
They were almost a mile apart, and we were getting similar readings. Now, this was later in the series.
Yeah.
We experience isolated events.
Right.
And it leads me looking back at what we know now.
Right.
It leads me to believe that we were receiving isolated signals from the same source because they were the same level.
But what is the source? And that's the thing. And, you know, this is where we get with this whole thing. You know, I'm not saying what the source is. We're just saying there is a source. So before we start defining what this is, we need to at least acknowledge that it is. And that's what the data shows. Again, these are multiple pieces of equipment. This isn't one piece of equipment that I can say, maybe it malfunctioned. No, it's multiple pieces of equipment.
In different series of that equipment.
Right.
Not just, so it's not like we're running with the exact same series. We have 2, sometimes 3 different series of this same type of dosimeter Geiger counter that is being, you know, put out in the field.
Yes.
And we're getting the same readings.
That should not happen unless there's something there that's actually causing that. And that's what we've run into at this point. I think it's clear that during the series, for whatever reason, you were subjected to an enormous amount of this low-level radiation. And let's explain that too. It is low-level radiation. That's the weird part.
It is. It's not a dangerous level of radiation. It is a continuous exposure to low-level radiation, and I'm still waiting for the night when I go to bed and crack my fingers and they start to glow, but it's not happened yet.
No, the spikes have been between 33 and 43. 43 was always was the highest we ever had, and I think that was in Logan.
Yes.
That's when that was. Again, a subject A incident, which turned into a subject B incident. Like you're looking for this one thing, and something says, "Nah, look over here."
Yeah.
Very interesting. And if you look back at this non-linearly, it gets even more interesting.
It really does.
Doesn't it? So yeah. And to be fair, again, our normal radiation, 17 CPM, because that's what we're using, our measurements, 17 to 20 CPM. But we're getting these spikes into the 30s and 40s. So one of the more strange things that happens out there would be this incident, Joe.
So, I mean, we're at 33 CPM right now. Hey, Ron. 33. 33. So he just yelled back that they were at 50. They were at 15 and we're at 33. So this is a local gamma radiation spike. So you can, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it with the glare. There's our CPM at 33. That was our high. That's that spike right there. And you can see how it's tracking. That was just recently, and that was our high.
You're out of battery. This just went from 50 to 0.
That's one of the new batteries.
Well, you could see, and I'm pretty sure everyone who watched this episode could see the immediate look of concern that just fell on my face when you yelled out with glee, "It's localized!"
Well, I knew it wasn't us.
Right.
But, what I didn't know was that out there, you guys had experienced some weird stuff.
We did.
Right before that 33.
We did.
And then we just saw the camera dies on that spot.
Yes.
Right there. That was where the camera died.
And not just died, the camera died, and the walkie-talkie comes to life.
Yeah.
I've asked this before. Is this phenomena sentient? Do you want us looking into this phenomena?
Yes, the radiation was.
I turned it off.
Get the thing you're holding.
I turned that off.
Which one?
That doesn't make any sense.
Right before this, the walkie-talkie come on.
And so we're going back and forth about this equipment malfunctions. Then the camera dies, and then we backtrack back to you guys, and it just continued from there.
Yeah, we were having failures at the exact same time that this happened.
And
so, again, I don't know what was happening out there, but right before that happened, you see the REM pod there. You asked something to use any energy it wanted to
play.
Yep.
Check, 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 checkity, check, check. I'm just testing the REM pod out. Nothing that time.
Okay, yeah, great idea. Did it have any effect on it whatsoever?
We thought it did, but now it's showing that it's not. We might have actually had some kind of strange hit that was actually an anomaly, but give me a minute, we're gonna play.
You invited it to play. Yeah.
But that has been a trend.
It has been.
And that's something that, we've talked about this, you and I have, with the intent. We're not going out there yelling at it, saying, show yourselves, do this, do this. It's like, hey, let's play a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's play. That has been a consistent thing. Let's play. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get equipment to do its thing. And it has at least yielded enough results to continue that study to see how many more reactions we can get.
Absolutely, and I think the intent thing is definitely something that there's something to that as far as it goes, and I think it matters what the intent is. Now, one of the weird things about the radiation, another weird thing is we saw it occur with UFO, UAP, but we also saw it occur with the experiment that Adam conducted.
Yes.
One of the first attempts at what is now being called psionics, what we called contact protocols. And the results are the results. I mean, and we actually had Ike Falber on there, who was actually reading the brainwaves, and he confirmed, yes, he is in a deep state of meditation.
And to fill everybody in, Ike Falber is not just some yokel that we drug out with us. Ike worked and retired from a sleep lab.
Yeah.
His job was to read EEGs.
He knew what he was looking at. And the more amazing thing is that what we did here was based upon something that Glenn had said. Glenn Adkins had said at one of our Bigfoot workshops about intent and how that matters. And it was almost like group intent kind of thing. And I remember telling you, I was like, well, that sounds a lot like this whole C5 type protocols that they're working with. And like, can we replicate this? So that's what we attempted to do. We weren't looking for UFOs. We were actually going to see if this could be used to pull in Bigfoot or whatever, because we were in an area where that kind of activity took place. And so as Adam is in this state, he's sending out this invitation. Well, things got really weird when he did that.
Well, we're in this area where he sent an invitation. But if you remember back as well, Teresa had her psychic impression from something that was trying to communicate with her in this same area.
Yeah. So this place has a history. Again, there's the overlap. It's right there. You've got the AB overlap. There's something physical there. We've taken casts from there. Something physically made those casts, so those tracks.
Yes.
So we can agree on that. But this was not physical.
The brainwaves are slowing down pretty good. Wow, look at that. Look how fast he got into that. That's, man, if I was looking at that in a lab, I'd say that's like stage 2.
Say again.
32, 33, 34.
Wow.
It was right after he sent his signal, too.
Yeah. Ask him what time that was.
Can you tell us exactly what time that happened?
Right now.
Adam sent a signal approximately 3 seconds before you contacted us.
We just got a vocalization up here.
As we were walking out of the trail here, something vocalized.
We spiked it back up to almost 30.
And we got a radiation spike up to 30.
He sent a signal. He just sent a signal.
We got 29 right here. We got 30. We got 30.
Yeah. That's coincided perfectly with Adam sending a signal. He did it again, and we hit 30, and you hit it at the exact same time. I don't know what I make of that.
That is very bizarre. I will say that much.
So Adam, during his meditation, set a signal out. And as soon as he sent out the signal, the pocket dosimeter started detecting a radiation spike. We received a radiation spike that went as high as 34 CPM. That is not in the danger level, but it is of note because the average in this area, anything over 17 is an anomaly and unusual. So we are setting in wait right now, and we're going to see if anything starts to happen.
Yeah, we're showing nothing electromagnetic spectrum. Almost nothing.
We are at 22 CPM currently, and when the radiation spike occurred, the whippoorwill went silent. And now that the CPMs are down in the low 20s, it's back at it.
So let's talk about this.
The whippoorwill.
Yeah.
What a way to really kick off the series, because this was the first major investigation that we conducted for Paranormal Horizons. And it was a wild night. It was absolutely an unexpected night. It didn't go the way that we thought, because we had experienced so much Subject A in this area.
Physical activity.
And we had radiation spikes in the past year, but we had never experienced what we had that night. We had even had, news anchors in the area and had Subject A activity. But this was almost exclusively Subject B that night, and the whippoorwill.
Exactly. And it happened almost right on cue with this contact protocol, this intent protocol thing that he was doing. And the whippoorwill, it's right there. It's all documented. And I know everyone's like, it's whippoorwill, guys, get over it. You weren't there.
Yeah, this thing literally followed us. It followed us and tracked us.
You.
Correct. It followed me through the woods and for literal miles. Yeah. We were 3/4 of a mile away from base camp, but this thing was tracking us from the original site, which was 4 miles down the road, and then followed us here, went all the way out to the point and back.
Yeah.
Then was in the road.
Yeah. And you guys were there.
We captured it on thermal.
Yep.
I took a picture with my phone.
It's a physical bird. Honestly, if you guys came back and told me this story, my first thought would have been, you guys were abducted. You had a screen image put in. There's something wrong. That wasn't a bird, but you have the picture of a physical bird.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a screen image. It's not a mental manipulation. It was a real thing that was there. And then, of course, everyone says, well, it just flew away.
Not when we're that close. There were eyes on this thing. I bent down.
Eyes.
Yeah, I bent down to pick it up because I thought it was an injured bird, and I was going to take it to the local avian rescue.
Right, and you're a master naturalist. Let's put that out there for those who aren't.
Right, I am a master naturalist with the West Virginia DNR, and this is straight up the track for what we do.
Right.
And I have in the past, I've taken owls, I've taken herons, I've taken other birds of prey.
Absolutely.
This one is no different. I was going to pick him up. I was going to put him in the cat carrier, take him in the next morning. And when I reached down to pick him up, we're just going to hypothetically say that this tri-field meteor is the whippoorwill. My hands were right about here, and suddenly it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly what everybody who was on site said. It was there, and then it just wasn't.
Yeah, it was there, and then just gone.
There he is. Okay, I do have him in picture.
Right.
It was never there.
And anybody who has ever collected a wild bird, you know that you have to go in 2 hands and you go over the front, cup the wings, and secure the body. And so I had both hands here and I was looking at it, clear view, and then this thing was gone. Cue the explicatives.
No sound. It was just not there.
Right.
There would have been wing sounds. There would have been dust.
Yeah.
You would have known. Yeah, very strange. One of the strangest things that happened during the entire filming of the series, I think. Mm-hmm. There was some weird stuff, but that is at the top as far as I'm concerned.
It is very unusual.
Speaking of unusual, equipment malfunctions. Again, we've noted these, but mostly they're in an area associated with B. Now, there can be A, because the one at Salt Fork was
correct
associated with A. But they're interesting to me because they seem to be not only equipment that batteries drain, connections get lost or severed.
Right.
And then, of course, like you said, radios come on and turn off.
Well, you're speaking about connections being severed, and you just brought up radios. And one of the things that we found during the research for this series was that handheld radios and wireless microphones, they can be interrupted by a strong enough mirrored
counter signal.
Yeah. Specifically a microwave signal.
So basically, if you take a microwave signal and you push it back, right, mm-hmm. and you put it out of phase, then that mirrored signal cancels out the original the original one. That's what you're
Correct.
saying. Yeah.
Which is exactly what I think happened to us when we were out at Dawn's.
What's your radiation?
Something happened, because it sounds like, to me, anybody who listens to that, you hear that click, that pop. And I honestly thought the cable got pulled. Because we have the cable running from the wireless. The cable got pulled, right?
Yeah.
No, the cable didn't get pulled.
Because I disconnected it all.
Right. But it sounds like...
At the end of the night.
It sounds like there's an actual click.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, something happened.
And that click could have been an audio clipping. Like when I say audio clipping, we're talking about the frequency spiking. It could have been an audio clipping and everything canceling out at that point.
Yeah, it absolutely could have been. So it could have been a ghost image, basically, is what you're saying. A carrier wave that came in and just kind of booted it out. Let's go to our spectrum analyzer data, because that's our next thing.
Mm-hmm.
We hear a lot about this. A lot of people chimed in on this in the comments. They were, that's exactly what they're getting. It's Skinwalker Ranch,
Yeah.
It is. And they're getting it everywhere. It's not just there.
Right.
We've talked to multiple researchers out there who are doing all kinds of other research, especially like paranormal research. Yeah. It's something that's happening.
Well, some of our really close friends, Jesse and Joe from Hellbent Holler, they were doing this. We started doing this same kind of research, going down the same road, taking mildly different approaches, but using the same equipment. We started using the same equipment at the same time, bouncing back and forth with each other, and we were getting the same results that they're getting down south as we are in northern Appalachia. Yeah. And then we're also seeing the same results over on the West Coast. We're seeing the same results coming out of New England area from other researchers that have been in communication. This phenomena, to me, could very well be linked to what we're detecting in thermal, because these thermal signatures that we collect with these UAPs and UFOs darting across the sky, we're literally getting them everywhere.
Right. And what we did find out was that we had to create a protocol.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I remember sitting down and showing you this data. We kept running into it in the field. It's like, it's too prevalent. Mm-hmm. This shouldn't be, it's got to be satellites, it's got to be phones, it's got to be something. So we came up with a protocol. The protocol basically stated that if this started to occur within a certain window, like when we're doing an ITC, instrumental transcommunication type session, something like that, like you saw at Wineberry.
Right.
If it occurs within that, and if it's prolonged, and it's not just a hit and run. Now the hit and run ones, we throw those out.
Right.
You don't hear about those. They're all the time there. We throw those out. The ones we look for are the ones that are prolonged and that seem to occur when there's other things happening, that multiple validation.
At 1.597195, so technically a 1.6.
Yeah, that's still a designated signal.
Yeah, roundabout. Okay.
All right, you got a negative 70 on that, or a negative 75. Holy cow, we went up to 35
PM out here on this device.
Wow. Okay, that is significant.
That is really significant.
And we've got base camp sitting here at 17.
Normal, so that's localized. Whatever you guys have got out there in that field is localized.
And other things happening, like you said, either doing an ITC session, or if we're getting some kind of electromagnetic field, or some kind of
UAP.
A UAP on thermal, exactly, or on the third generation night vision.
Yeah, absolutely. So they have occurred in all those situations. I think we showed it so much throughout the series, but one of the stranger ones that really got me was when we were up at Dawn's.
Yes.
That was impressive because we had been literally led out by that microwave signal, like we talked about before. It literally led us out down a path.
Mind you, the same signal that took us one complete direction brought us right back.
Back to the parking lot, back to our table where all of our gear was, to see a thermal signature sitting in the sky doing the exact same thing that she had described for years. And then I go over to check the essay to see because we hadn't got anything.
Yeah. We're out there. Come back to 1.7. I said, if we get a 1.6, I'll be surprised. Not only do we get a 1.6, while we're sitting here talking about this light in the sky, we get a 1.6. Why? That was not base. This was baselined out for only. We didn't hear for hours with this thing turned on. Right. There's nothing. And then there it. Holy crap! Get the camera over here. Getting it right now.
Again, just like Wineberry, we were talking about it and we got the signal at the exact same time.
This was one of the first times we caught it in real time. So it's happening at the exact same time we're addressing the situation. Again, you take that how you want, but to me, we start adding all these coincidences and all these synchronicities up, and it starts to paint an interesting picture. But then you have to ask yourself, are we just creating patterns? Is it just a pattern of recognition? The odds of some of this stuff are literally astronomical.
Right.
Here's some of those COPs we talked about and the whole thing about them. Now, the COPs, we found out, may not be visible.
Right. They can range anywhere from the infrared spectrum to just thermal heat signatures or something that is, just showing up faintly.
Exactly. And a lot of them are, but the one that really got us was this one. This is the one that really got us because it was so bizarre in that it was so bright, it casts actual lens flare.
And it also lights up the branch below it.
Yeah. And it's coming down the same path that we're going to be coming down in about 5 minutes or so.
No, I don't know what that was. It was a light.
Okay, I got a blinking red light.
Close to the exit of the woods.
No.
Negative. We have
Because
but from a slightly different direction, because we would be coming about 10 feet to the right and about 4 feet lower.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That thing's up there.
Yeah, that light is roughly 10 to 12 feet off the ground.
We're up there.
We're over here.
We were up there, and I can prove we were up there because we conducted a laser experiment.
Yeah.
And you can actually see our beam coming down toward base camp.
Yeah.
So the height is actually there.
Right.
We were on that ridge.
And we were in a different location. We were off to the right and back about 150 yards.
So synchronicities and high strangeness.
Yeah.
Seems an odd category. I mean, I know it's, to some people that's what would they call it woo.
Sure.
I don't like that word. We don't use that word around here.
It's such a misunderstood statement, an overused statement for an extremely complex phenomenon.
It really is.
And so much of what is considered woo is slowly becoming modern science.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
And things that, we used to consider taboo and woo or unusual 10 years ago are now being messed with theoretical physics.
Absolutely.
Or quantum mechanics. We now have quantum computers.
Right.
That was considered to be woo 20, 30 years ago.
There was recently an article that stated that a quantum computer made a calculation that theoretically pointed to the fact that it may have pulled that from either a extra dimensional source,
yes,
or a multiverse. This is real. This is not woo. It is just simply misunderstood.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of what we're dealing with. So we have to put synchronicities and high strangeness on here because of some of the weird things that happened out there.
Oh, 100%.
One of the weird things that happened out there would be at the aforementioned equipment malfunction where the walkie decided to stop when we were doing the workshop to it doing this.
All right, so we saw it, right?
Yeah. Saw what? I saw the
Yeah.
That was
that
empty.
one's dead.
Now they're both full charge again.
We're back out of the woods.
I'll just check my FLIR and my.
Let me see it again.
Yeah, I'll check that.
See if I
Both of
can get the
them are full
battery.
charge. Here, I'll.
Just hold still, I'll get it.
Was that them running over a rock or was that a
Right there, full charge.
rock?
Leaving the gravel.
Yeah.
Right there, full charge.
Now, the one that was affected right, that was coming on inside the backpack. It later got to the point where I couldn't charge it anymore.
Right.
And it was just fried.
Yeah, it was useless.
And those were new.
Oh, those were brand new. Those were brand new.
That was the second or third time we'd ever used them.
Absolutely. So we went out to Wineberry, and right before we were starting to do our thing, what most people don't realize is we were out there in an area. This is not where we wanted to set up originally. We wanted to set up somewhere else. But we got out there, and as we were conducting our interview with Beth, we started hearing this weird sound.
We had noticed a strange buzzing sound coming from all around us, but we just thought it was bees in the distance.
This isn't a directional audio. It doesn't matter which direction you turn. That's why when we've been recording, you've seen me kind of walking, spinning in circles. I'm trying to
figure out where it's coming
where it's come from.
Everywhere.
It's coming from every direction.
It's literally coming from everywhere.
And what I was doing with my phone, when I was looking at this, I used the 5 and 20 zoom to look across the field to see if there was any bees or anything I wasn't seeing.
There's no bees. I can hear this, like I can hear it coming from about everywhere. What is that?
It's literally coming from every direction. We can set up here and do a night watch.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we set up right here.
It sounds like there's a fleet of DJI drones on the other side of that ridge just hovering. It's like you're at one of those shows where they do the drone light shows.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a sound, but there's not a single drone in the air.
All right, so the question is this. Are we being distracted? Because we had plans to shoot in a specific area tonight.
We did.
We had plans to shoot in a specific area tonight. We go back here just to do this interview, and all of a sudden, we start hearing the sound all around in this area.
Is it a distraction, or are they leading us where they want us to be?
I don't know what that was. So, you know, as far as synchronicities go, there was an interesting one, and this is one that took place. And this is literally me holding the psionics down at my side. I was looking for something. I'm not looking at the sky.
No. Your eyes weren't on the sky.
No,
the camera was.
It was upside down.
You had the camera upside down in your hand, and we were moving to the next little.
Yeah, you can see it right here. I'm moving it, and as I'm doing this, it comes up, and it just so happens to land right here at this specific time.
Yeah.
For that to happen. Satellite, if it was, I don't really care. The point is that it managed to. Right there.
That was odd.
It's odd. It's odd. But we had other odd things that happened when we were out there. We thought we'd try our little experiment with the flashlight the first time.
Whoa.
And we blew the circuit.
We did. Didn't like it at all.
No, I don't think our portable power unit enjoyed that. But that led us down the track of more stuff with this flashlight.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like that's the way we were supposed to go with this. So we were at Dawn's, we were doing the investigation up there, but we did an interview with her, and she tells us something that we had never heard before. And Maria just happened to catch it, our reactions on the phone while she was also filming, the interview itself. This is what she says, which actually inspired us to go the rest of the way with this series. And some of the results that happened after this are just...
Because it was already on the table. It was an idea that we were going to flesh out. But this was like, okay, we have to do this at the very next location.
At exactly this kind of way,
We would come out every night and look at them. I would point them out with a flashlight to make sure they were seeing the right thing. And each night they got a little lower.
So, wait, I'm going to back you up.
Mm-hmm.
You pointed a flashlight at them.
Mm-hmm.
And each night, was it before or after that, they started to get lower?
It was every night they were a little lower. And I pointed the light at them every night.
What kind of flashlight was it?
It was a long Duracell. It took a lot of big batteries. It was a LED. We got it for Christmas. It was a gift. It was like this long. What? It was like I don't know. It was like a mag light.
So, again, flashlights.
Mm-hmm.
The next instance with a flashlight that surprises us is when we're out talking to Brianna.
Yeah.
And this is on the property that we're investigating now with the weird psyops that are just occurring all the time. She tells us after, during this interview we're having with her, she drops the fact that she's been out there and just one night she decides to flip the lights on and off on the porch light, and they responded. Not only did they respond, listen to what she says.
Also, they're a little bit interactive. The night I was just being silly and I flicked our porch lights on and off. They came closer, they tripled their numbers, and then later I thought I saw a shadow figure in our yard, just about where we're standing. It ran from east to west. That was the first time I'd seen a change in the activity. Up until then, it had only been the lights.
So it seemed to suggest at this point that it wasn't just lights that were reacting to this.
Right.
And so the next time we go out in the field, we actually do test this a lot more. And here's that result.
You gotta be kidding me.
What? No way.
Oh, yeah, way. Literally, as soon as you flashed it, it just pops up.
I said, okay, I'm going to flash the sky.
This thing just shows up. Almost as if it teleported there.
It cannot be denied that that did absolutely happen. Which brings us up to some other interesting factors. This is the psi factor, or the human contact initiative factor, okay, which is basically our protocol. It does seem that we have the data that shows that something is interacting with us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what that is. And I know that some people think, well, you're just not that important, that it shouldn't be that way.
Right.
Who are you? I feel the same way about some people who are out there doing these things. But the thing is, I don't think any of us are. I don't think it has to do with importance. I don't think it has to do with any of that. It has to do with intent. And I think that's what we proved. If this is real, it has to do with intent. And it has to do with not only intent, but it has to do with, I think, the emotional context of it. Almost like it's looking for something that it knows is not harmful. Something that is not only not harmful, but is willing to play as you invited it to do. It almost seems like that's what we're dealing with. And it sounds absolutely ludicrous when you think about it. It really does. However, in another incredible series of complete coincidence, while we're filming this, news breaks of a new whistleblower who comes forward with the claim that they're going to show this UFO.
Mm-hmm.
And that they have this incredible, bit of data they're going to reveal. So what happens is Jake Barber comes forward talking about this, crash retrieval program that he's with, and does this exclusive News Nation interview, talks about what he's seen. This is the egg-type craft that he was out there, supposedly bringing in, right, at the range. And it makes news.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at the egg and we said, oh my God. The egg looks a lot like these thermal targets that we've been capturing for years.
For years. That was the first thing out of my mouth. As soon as I saw this thing dangling from the mesh rigging, immediately the objects that we've been catching. And not because it's in white hot, it's the shape.
Yeah.
The shape of these things.
Well, you can see the shape. And this is the stillest, most stable frame I could get of of one of our thermals, the good close-up ones that flew kind of close. You can see that is an elongated form. It's that tic-tac shape is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's just a little squashed, or an egg.
Yeah.
Take it for what it is. The data is the data again.
Right.
It gets weirder. And this is what really kicked it off. Understanding psionics and summoning the unknown. I remember telling you, I said, do you think they're going to mention anything about this?
Yeah.
And I really didn't think they would. I did not think that they would play this card. Neither one of us really thought they would play this card because it is so out there.
It's not just that it's out there, it's controversial.
It's controversial. And if you're trying to actually get someone to pay attention to this and really look at it as a real phenomenon, you think that this is going to discredit it.
Right.
We even had talks about this when we did this. It was like, do we really want to show this part of it? It has to be. It's part of the data. It has to go on the table. That's where it belongs. It doesn't matter what we think about it or what anyone else thinks about it. It is just the data.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Agreed.
What are we talking about, Joe?
Well, we're talking about going out there and putting our intent, our focus, our expectation towards some kind of a contact initiative. Now, there's several names for this type of research.
Yeah.
We have our own, but this is it. This is meditation. It's being mindful. It's being focused and going out the same exact things that we had done with Adam, the same exact things. If you remember at Wineberry, there was a minute that I went and set aside because we were hearing something. And one of the things I do when I'm tracking is it's not a full meditative state, but I'll go and I'll sit and relax myself and focus.
Yes.
And I can hear where things are at and target better.
Oh yeah, and that's something I've done for years. If I lose something, a lot of times I'll close my eyes and look for it. It's second nature, and I think that that's kind of a part of how that works too. You know, I think that's the whole remote viewing aspect of this stuff too.
Yeah.
Another one of those that used to be fringe topics that everybody's now talking about. This stuff is real.
Yeah.
There is some form of conscious connection between this phenomenon, in my opinion, based upon the data that we got. Here's one of the things that really sealed it for me was where, as this says, the intention of the settings and so forth. Basically, you send out a signal to where they're at and what you're doing. Now, this is in Adam's own, his own words of this. He says basically that that's what he was doing out there. He was telling us what he was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when Adam goes out, lays down, about 5 minutes after he's into his meditation, the sky lights up with thermal targets. 1, 4, 5. Once we sent Adam out into the field,
things went bonkers.
To conduct his meditation, which he's doing a CE5 out there, the sky lit up. We started getting 1.6 on the spectrum analyzer, which it was not anywhere near that before. And it was constant. And then everything erupted in the sky on thermal. There's multiple UAPs that cannot be seen with naked eye. They cannot be seen with just standard night vision. They're only showing up on thermal. And they are not bugs. They are not birds.
I went out to the field and I began to have a meditation that was CE5 based.
I won. There.
You're on it. We got it. We have this one on record.
Speed is insane, guys.
Hey, do you see that black rim around it?
Yeah, I do.
What it comes down to is we have multiple instances of what can only be described as, I think you called it, call and response.
Yeah.
If I look at this data and I set my biases aside, it can't be, because that's where a lot of people come at this from. It doesn't fit my box that I put the universe in. So it cannot be that.
Right.
You guys are over exaggerating this. This is not real. It's not just us.
No.
There are other independent researchers out there who are doing the same thing. One of the more amazing parts of this is the fact, you mentioned before, Joe and Jesse, help and holler. We have arrived at almost the same conclusion independently without talking about what we were doing.
Yeah. What are the odds?
What are the odds? That's why we need to get these guys out in the field and see what happens when both of us are looking for this thing.
Oh, agreed.
Because there's something out there. I don't know what it is at this point. I can only tell you that there is something.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
I can only say that there is something. All the evidence points to the fact that there is something. What that something is, I can't put a finger on.
Right.
Now, one of the things that has been brought up over and over by random individuals is asking, who are we to be doing this?
Yeah.
You know? And we've come to this conclusion that there are multiple instances of cases where we have multiple validation. But there's a reason we got to this point. There's a reason we took this road to get here. And that involves a little bit more information about you and I.
Yeah.
So for me, I had a background growing up where the world was a playground, and I had all of these, I was being taught how to forage. I was being taught medicinal herbs and things like that. And I also had the freedom to explore in the woods and go do things and kind of learn how to be at one with nature, so to speak.
Right.
As cliche as that sounds.
Yeah.
Then I became a minister. I went in the military, continued ministerial work, did all of my education, went on, became a certified master naturalist, was then breaking away and no longer active in ministry at that point. But we have these backgrounds. I can go into some of these situations and I can tell you unequivocally that this is not demonic activity. These UAPs that we're capturing are not the demonic supernatural monsters that we were fighting from the church pews, so to speak. This is something completely unrelated. It is something that seems to have been here all along, just as long as we've been here, at least, if not longer.
Agreed.
And this goes possibly even for the Bigfoot phenomenon. We don't know how long this has been going on. We know that there's a recorded history that dates back to Greek and Romans and prior to that as well, these hairy men. We also have the outlook from the ancient astronaut perspective when it comes to the UAPs, UFOs of the past. But because of my background, military, ministry, nature, biology, and just doing this kind of research and having a growing up sort of exposed to spirituality and some of the more unseen things, it put me in the position to where now this is who we are, basically.
Yeah.
This is what we do, and you've been doing this for a long time too. This isn't your first rodeo either, so to speak.
No, I've been doing this for way over 40 years. And, it all started with, of course, the first UAP or UFO sighting that we had. I was a kid and then got pulled into, psychic phenomena. And then from there got into, ancient kind of, I guess, it was really ancient astronaut theory. It just wasn't to me at that time, but that's what it was. And very, very much fascinated with that kind of stuff, which led me down the path to all these other paranormal phenomena. And then here we are, in a very, very short way to put that. It's a much longer story.
Oh, much longer story.
Much longer story. We'll do that one day. But the thing is, I think that we did this because we were supposed to do this.
Yeah.
As strange as that sounds, that's what I got from this. Because how many people get the chance to literally say, okay, this is what we've caught. This is what's out there. There's too many people who want to tell you what that something is.
There's also too many people that want to sensationalize it.
Right. It's pretty sensational enough. It doesn't need any more.
It doesn't need your help.
It really doesn't. It's like the orange, the orange UAP we caught. It's pretty sensational.
It is.
I mean, I'll just tell you, that's amazing. And how it was captured is even more sensational.
Right.
Because you have to consider, I just picked that sonics up at that very particular moment and pointed it at the sky, looking in this direction, and this thing appears. It's almost like it knew I picked that psionics up. There's something about this that goes way beyond coincidences. There's something that goes way beyond, like you said, belief systems. It's data.
It is.
It's something that's probably been here. It's not our job to define it. Our first part before we define anything is to admit it exists, and that's what we are doing at this point. That's what this series was about. It wasn't to define subject A and B, it was to prove that they are there.
Yeah. And it also stood up to what so many researchers have always claimed about the rarity of subject A.
That's right.
And then the commonplace nature of subject B.
UFOs, paranormal activity. There's so much more of that reported than there are actual Bigfoot sightings. And, you know.
And Bigfoot and cryptids alike.
Absolutely. So the point being, the data actually plays out and it's accurate as far as I can tell. This small sampling that we did actually correlates to what may be there.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It's been a really interesting year, and I'm extremely excited to be able to continue doing what we're doing, because we're nowhere near done with Brianne's area.
Oh, no. And we have a lot of new experiments we want to take out there.
Yes.
We've got the Manus, as you said. We've got the laser system at this point. We've got some other tools that we're going to be bringing online out there.
We also have some other locations that we need to hit that are historically UFO sensitive, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I think that it is imperative that we get back out to these places and follow up. Not just a one and done, but follow up with some of these places, especially like Wineberry. We've been going there for 3-4 years now.
4 years.
You know, we got to get back out there. But this time we're going out there with even more equipment. Mm-hmm. So who knows what we're going to catch, man. It's been an incredible ride. I don't know where we're going to end up at, but I can promise you it's going to be somewhere out there beyond this horizon.
Every day, somewhere out there, someone experiences something that does not quite fit into their reality. Whether it be a possible run-in with an unknown cryptid, an encounter with a UFO, or some other paranormal phenomena, the data shows that something indeed is happening. Those who experience these things have a choice. They can ignore it, or they can investigate it. Throughout the filming of this series, multiple coincidences led us following data that literally challenged us every step of the way, hinting toward the possible realization that we were not just experiencing random events, but that this entire project may have been about validation. Validation for those witnesses who've been ridiculed and remained silent because they experienced something that didn't fit into someone else's belief system. For years, we've been researching these various phenomena and documenting what we found along the way, never realizing that eventually we would be given the opportunity to share this data with a larger audience, some of who would begin to come forward with their own accounts, seemingly giving validation to what we had encountered, possibly bolstering some beliefs while challenging others. But this project was never about belief. It was about following and presenting data. The data exists, no matter how much some may wish it didn't. And it doesn't care if we believe it, because belief is not a determining factor. Those who experience these phenomena have a choice. They can ignore it all and look away, or they can embrace the unknown challenges that lie ahead. Look for answers out there, beyond the horizon.